began perhaps as a recreational paddler, just doing short trips and packing paddles and camping trips, and then eventually we got involved in competition. We're certainly here 4 or 5 times a week paddling canoes on our river. Because of our interest in canoeing and paddling, you develop this interest in the bigger picture. Firstly, a lot of people pump water directly out of the river. So as you move downstream of Wagga, most of the landholders would pump water directly out of the river, and that water would be used for certainly stock and domestic purposes, but also most of them would have some agricultural activity which is dependent upon water. So they may just simply be watering pasture, they may be watering winter crop, or in some cases they may be watering summer crop. So there is a lot of use of the water by river pumpers. As you move further down the river, they pump a lot of water and irrigate a lot of land, and you start to see fairly intensive irrigation, high value crops, cotton being grown, maize being grown, all with water that's pumped directly out of the river. The irrigation areas to the west of Wagga provide a huge amount of agricultural production, not only for domestic consumption in Australia, but also for export. Water is a scarce resource, and we became very much aware of that, perhaps over the last 10 years or so of the drought and the period of water shortage, where the efficient use of water has become a fairly major issue. And we've seen quite dramatic changes in farming practices in the irrigation areas to make more efficient use of the fairly limited supplies of water that are available. If we take Wagga as an example, and I mean that's where we are now, the level of the river varies significantly over a year. The level of the river at Wagga could be as low as 1 metre on the river gauge during the winter months. Even though we're a winter rainfall area, the rain that falls during that period and the water formed from the thawing of the snow is actually caught in the dams and held in the dams. So the level of our river drops quite significantly during the winter months. Through to the irrigation season, when they start to make releases, the level of the river in Wagga could rise to levels more commonly around 3 or 4 metres. So we've got a 3 metre variation in the level of the river between the winter period and the summer irrigation period. Because the level of the river is so high and is maintained at these high levels for such a long period of time, we find that a lot of measures have to be taken in order to manage and to control erosion along the course of the river. Yeah. So there's quite an impact on the environment as a result of the dams and the way that the river is managed. Yeah, sure. I'll take them. In the history of Wagga's development, the river played a very important part, and yes, perhaps if the river wasn't here, certainly Wagga wouldn't have been here. It began with land settlement along the river, and finally a sort of a community developed. The river provided water for agriculture and for the community, and so the town grew. Personally, I would like to see more people make use of it. I mean, it's interesting that we're sitting here now, and you've spent a few weeks paddling down the river. You're probably aware that in actual fact there are not a lot of other people making use of the river, that you've got it to yourself.